When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
It locked eyes with me. My heart felt like it had lodged in my throat. Its eyes were pitch black, staring right into me.
I knew he was off from the get-go. I had never experienced anything like this before, but my gut screamed at me to run away when I interacted with him.
Its shape was almost human, but distorted, like it was melting.
From killer podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events, this is Disturbed. Hello and welcome back to the show. This week we're bringing you 5 true stories that will fill you with dread. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. We begin with a cryptid encounter on a quiet drive. Something in the road, something not quite right. Narrated by Catherine Restivo, and written in by Disturbed listener Dior. Thanks for sharing, Dior. If you have a story you'd like to hear on the show, send it to us at mystory@disturbedpodcast.com.
This happened over summer break just before I started 7th grade. Before I explain what happened, I need to give you a quick layout of my house. My house is near a forest. The forest is right across the street from us in front of our house. We have a porch in both the front and back, and when you step out the front door, you'd take about 10 steps, depending on how big your steps are, before reaching the stairs. There's also a road behind the house. The front and back roads eventually connect further down. One night, I was bored and decided to stand out on the front porch. There wasn't much else to do. It was still a little warm outside, late summer air. Just to clarify, it was around 11:23 p.m. My dad, stepmom, and stepsister were already asleep. I stepped outside and leaned against the rail, just looking around. There were coyotes in the forest, sure, but to be honest, I wasn't, still am not, scared of being outside. As a kid, I played a lot of horror games, watched scary movies, and listened to creepy stories. Stuff that would scare most little kids. I was already used to it. I looked over at the back road. From the front porch, you can see it clearly, just like you can see the front road from the back porch. And then, my heart skipped a beat. My eyes widened. There was something there. A deer? No. No way. It was standing like a person. Its upper legs bent in a way that looked more like human shoulders. It wasn't grazing or walking. It was just standing there, still. If you got close to it, I imagine it would smell like rotting meat and dried blood. I stared at it for what felt like 30 seconds. It didn't move. And then, slowly, it turned its head. It locked eyes with me. My heart felt like it had lodged in my throat. Its eyes were pitch black, staring right into me, unblinking. Then it turned its head back. Its body cracked loudly like it was resetting itself. You could hear the joints shift and pop in the night air. The entire world felt silent, like it was holding its breath. And then it walked off, like nothing had happened. A few nights later, I was lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling, just because why not? Then I heard something. A scraping sound against my window. At first I thought, oh, it's just the tree. But then I paused. Wait, the tree isn't that close to my window. So what was that? Out of pure curiosity, I sat up, turned around, got on my knees, and looked out my window. There was no wind. The night was still. I scanned the yard. And then I saw it. That thing, just like before. Deformed. Wrong. But this time, it was staring at me through the glass. What did it want? Was it nature trying to warn me? Was it something else entirely? I don't know. And then, just like last time, it straightened out. Its limbs cracked back into normal shape. It turned around and walked away, back into the woods. To this day, I still don't know what it was. It didn't scare me so much that I refused to go outside again. But it changed something in me. It made me more cautious, more aware. Now I'm not comfortable in the woods. I don't look in their direction, just in case there's some monster waiting.
Next, a preschool memory that stayed with its narrator well into adulthood. A man follows her for days and gets way too close. From Reddit user Snowy Muscles, with narration by Kat Carter. Psycho follows me to preschool.
A few years ago, when I was 24, I started teaching English in Japan. And they start you super young over there. My students were all of 3 years old. It was my first teaching job in the country, so I was still learning Japanese, and I could only understand and speak a little bit. That didn't matter for my job, though. I wanted to be able to drive to work, so I applied for an international driver's license. Only took me 10 attempts to pass the driving exam. I went to work every other day, and when I did, I drove a little boxcar. One morning, I was running a little late, so I was driving a bit faster than I was supposed to be going. I had a strict boss and would absolutely get yelled at for my tardiness. I was in the right lane, which is the fast lane in Japan. I rarely drove on the right just because, I enjoy the scenery, but I didn't have time for that today. I noticed my lane was disappearing, and I saw there was a space in front of the car next to me, so I pressed the gas even more to get in front of it. I was a whole 2 car lengths in front of the car I passed. And, except for speeding, I followed the rules of the road. That move to get me in front apparently upset the driver so much that he followed my car for 20 minutes to my workplace. But because I was so worried about getting to work on time, I didn't notice. I got to the preschool, parked my car, started gathering my things, not noticing the aggravated driver pulling in behind me. He appeared at my window right as all the kids and parents were arriving, so I just assumed he was a parent too. I rolled down my window to see what he wanted, and I quickly realized that he was a deranged lunatic and not someone's father. He screamed at me in front of all the parents and the children. I tried my best to figure out what was going on, but all I could understand was that he was very angry about my car and that he was calling the police. I tried explaining that my Japanese wasn't great, to no avail. Looking back, I should have just pretended not to understand him at all, because he began screaming at me about being a liar and that I could speak Japanese. Unfortunately, most of my Japanese language had come from anime, so literally the only words I was able to recognize were police, Japanese, liar, and angry. That's it. Everyone was staring at him, so he demanded I follow him across the street to a large grocery store. I agreed for a few reasons. First, I wanted to get him back in his car and away from the kids as soon as possible. Second, the bigger parking lot across the street offered more escape routes for me and my car. Third, the police, they were called to the grocery store, and I thought they'd offer me some protection. I drove across the street and parked, but kept my car running. He parked 2 rows ahead of me and glared right at me. For the next few minutes, I awkwardly just sat there. The police eventually come, and he goes up to them, demanding that they see the video. One stayed with him to watch the video, while the other came to my car to get my version of the story. He verified my license and began asking me questions using Google Translate. I gave him my version of the story, and the officer asked if the psycho had assaulted me. Honestly, that possibility hadn't even occurred to me before that moment. This very unhinged person definitely could have started an altercation. Thankfully, he didn't, and I told the officer the same. I couldn't afford to pursue any legal charges on a teacher's salary, so I said that I just wanted him to go away. He promised they'd get rid of the psycho and went back to reconvene with his partner. At this point, I texted my boss to update him on the situation because I was officially missing class. The psycho drove away, but the police monitored me in my car for 10 minutes before they said it was safe for me to go. No ticket, no fuss, no arrests on me or the unhinged guy's part. I was pissed. Why did I just have to deal with this situation for it to be over so easily? I was still freaking out and not looking forward to my 30-minute drive home, where I may find the psycho on the road again. Since that incident, I haven't been the same. Anytime someone is behind me on the road, I begin worrying about what they can do. It's gotten a little bit better as time has passed, but That fear stayed with me the whole time I lived in Japan. Sometimes I'd have to make a random turn, pull over, and take a breather to calm myself down. At least now, when that feeling comes up, I can differentiate between a normal driver and another insane dude.
I don't scare easy, but something that makes my stomach turn over is cheap clothes. After one wash, this shirt is tattered and shrunk. Absolutely terrifying should the encounter ever happen without my ability to brace myself. That's why I trust Quince for all my clothing choices nowadays. My flow-knit performance zip hoodie from them is a staple of my closet now. Comfortable, fashionable, and well-made. Quince is everything you need this summer, because the only thing worse than being hunted by a crazed killer is doing it while overpaying. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed.
The Abercrombie Kids Summer Sale is in full swing, with up to 50% off select styles for the season. Summer plans, vacation, and camp days are all covered, with new dresses, shorts, tees, and swim. Abercrombie Kids has the summer staples they need and the looks that they want to wear. Shop in-store, online, or in the app. Offer applies to select styles as indicated. Discount applied at checkout online.
Using a Clorox disinfecting wipe to clean that stuck-on sauce from the stove feels like...
Oh, boy. That tickles. Stop.
It feels like coming home to your needy corgi after a long day.
Best part of the day, finally.
With Clorox, clean feels carefree. Clean feels good. Use as directed.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao, a new kind of flavored sparkling water. The kind made with real fruit juice, a pinch of Sicilian salt, and the sparkle of the Italian sun. With no added sugar and just 10 or less calories per can, enjoy. With love, from Italy. By San Pellegrino Ciao now.
Welcome back to the podcast. You ever live somewhere and just know you're not alone? Our third story details a year in an apartment where the walls had eyes, and the shadows moved when they shouldn't have. From Reddit user IXRXGrim, voiced by Steve Scheurger. I lived in a haunted apartment for a year.
This happened to me in late 2016 through early 2017. I was 24 years old, active duty military, stationed in Tampa, Florida. My roommate, also military, got selected for deployment. We'd been living together since we first moved off base, but with him gone, I couldn't find anyone else to take his place. We broke the lease and I moved into a one-bedroom apartment by myself. It wasn't my first time living alone, but something about the place felt off. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't a bad apartment, and I only had a year left on my contract before separating from the military, so I stayed. Looking back now, that was a mistake. At first, it was just an uneasy feeling. But soon I started experiencing something I'd never dealt with before: sleep paralysis. I didn't even know what it was at the time. All I knew is I'd wake up frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, and staring at a dark figure in the doorway of my room. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Its shape was almost human, but distorted, like it was melting. Parts of it looked like they were dripping off its frame. I went to a doctor. He explained sleep paralysis, said it was likely brought on by stress. Everything he described matched my experience, so I accepted the explanation. But the episodes didn't stop. They got worse. Soon, I wasn't just seeing the figure, I could feel it. Sometimes it felt like something was trying to pull me off the bed. I'd be stuck, frozen, and I'd feel a grip on my ankle or wrist. My voice would come out in croaks. Every time I finally snapped out of it, I'd be lying there in the same position, like nothing had happened. Then one night, it did. This time, I wasn't paralyzed. I was fully awake when something grabbed my arm and yanked me. I was pulled between the bed and the wall, wedged tight. My arm twisted, a hand clamped around my forearm. I could feel it. I know it was real. That was the first moment I knew this wasn't just in my head. The last straw came a few weeks before my lease ended. I fell asleep on my stomach and woke up with that now familiar feeling. Paralyzed, the sense of being watched. Then a pressure on my back, like someone was sitting on me. I could feel breath on the back of my neck. What broke me out of the paralysis was a sudden, searing pain across my back. I bolted out of the bed and ran to the bathroom. 3 long scratches, like claws, ran from my shoulder blades to my lower back. After that, I never spent another night in that apartment. I stayed with a coworker until my enlistment was up. I only went back to pick up my things. I didn't break the lease, I just left. Whatever that thing was, it could keep the place. I was done. To this day, I'm afraid to sleep on my stomach. I'm afraid to sleep alone. Hell, I'm afraid to be alone at all.
Up next, a first-hand report of something not quite human crawling through the night. A creature spotted outside the window, and something primal kicks in. From Reddit user Impossible Order 246, narrated by Daniel DeGroh. My interesting experience.
This happened a couple years ago. It was spring of 2022. I was 16 and had just gotten my license. My friend's family was going on a day trip to the beach, Pacific City, Oregon, and a few of our friends decided that since I had a new-to-me car and my license, we'd load up in my old 300ZX, take the T-tops off, and head out for a nice trip to the coast. Everything went well, aside from the obvious discomfort of cramming 4 guys into a tiny coupe for a 2-hour drive. Eventually, we made it to the coast and had a good day. After packing up and getting ready to head home, my friend suggested we take a different road back, the Nestucca Access Road, for anyone familiar with the Tillamook Forest. He said it would take about 45 to 60 minutes longer than the highway, but was a lot prettier and would be a nice change of scenery. I obliged. The sun was setting, and in the thick forest, it got dark fast. Before we knew it, there was no cell service, no houses, and absolutely no other cars. Totally normal for the mountain ranges between the Oregon coast and the Portland metro area, so I wasn't concerned. About 10 miles in, I saw a green SUV, either an early 2000s Dodge Durango or Ford Escape, off the side of the road hauling a fifth wheel. It had clearly crashed. The vehicle was about 8 to 10 feet down a slope, caught only by the trees it had slammed into. The RV was trashed. Both side walls caved in, with the contents scattered down the embankment. The SUV itself was filled with clothes and food wrappers. Almost all the windows were shattered, and there were significant bloodstains on what was left of the driver's side window and windshield. As gruesome as it looked, it didn't seem abnormal for the extent of the crash. There was no one inside, no one nearby. We pulled over to check if anyone needed help. A pickup truck also stopped, and we told the driver what we saw. Since there wasn't much we could do, we got back on the road. Not long after, maybe 3 to 5 miles, we came to a sharp right-hand turn with a small pull-off on the inside of the curve. As my headlights lit up the trees behind the pull-off, I saw something. A man, or what I thought was a man, standing behind some tall grass or shrubs. Pale, saggy skin. From what I could tell, he was completely naked, but I could only really see from about the waist up. He was hunched over, like the way an old man's back arches, and just staring at my car. No hair, no prominent features, just there. The part that stuck with me most, his eyes. They reflected my headlights like a cat's would, bright and unnatural. As we passed, his entire body turned to keep watching the car. We were all frozen. No one spoke until we were past him. Then all my friends turned around in their seats. Everyone had seen it. One of them swore the figure leaned out from the shrubs to keep watching us drive off. We were freaked out, trying to figure out what we'd had just seen. Was it a tweaker who crashed his car and wandered off? Or something else entirely? I played it off at the time as the first option, but the more I thought about it, the more that explanation didn't make sense. It didn't move like a person. It didn't feel like a person. It reminded me of something you'd see in a liminal space photo, or one of those AI-generated images where everything looks almost human, but not quite. No eyebrows, no hair, skin pale and loose, like someone who lost a ton of weight really fast. But this sagging was on his cheeks, neck, arms, and the body looked scrawny, frail, wrong. We didn't stop again. We just sped home. I've told this story to a few people, usually when the topic of paranormal stuff comes up, but I'd never really shared it online. Cut to just a year later, and I was hanging out with my girlfriend's brother and one of his friends. We were driving through the trails near Dixie Mountain, swapping ghost stories. I told him this one. Her brother's friend suddenly pulled out a photo on his phone of the same SUV we'd seen crashed. He'd come across it too. He said he didn't see anything weird, but it was definitely the same wreck. I don't know what we saw that night. I don't know who or what was staring at us from behind that grass, but it scared the hell out of me and my friends, and I haven't been back on that road since. Maybe someone else out there has seen something similar in the Oregon wilderness. I hadn't really thought about posting this until today. My partner and I were reading a book about cryptozoology and mythological creatures, and it brought this all rushing back.
We'll be right back. Our final story. When your job involves the public, you learn to expect the unexpected. But this crossed every line. From Reddit user, I Like Seizures, with narration by Terra Ashe.
So I'm 19 and work at a local Chinese restaurant. I'm the only person who can really bartend, so usually I'm the one who makes the drinks behind the bar. I have customers flirt with me all the time, but I've never been super creeped out. That is until I met David. The woman who trained me told me that he was a regular and warned me about him when I started the job. He would always order the same thing, a switchback beer and a pork fried rice with no egg. He also would always talk to himself and converse with the air like he was surrounded by peers. I don't want to assume he may be on the autism spectrum or that he may have schizophrenia, but he talks to himself and nods to other people. He also always has his computer out and seems to type on the same Word document every time he comes in. The first time David came in, I didn't know he was the man she warned me about. I'm usually very chatty with customers, but I knew he was off from the get-go. He smiled like he learned how to from a YouTube tutorial or like he was mimicking something he saw. I had never experienced anything like this before, but my gut screamed at me to run away when I interacted with him. He said I was gorgeous and that all he wanted to do was listen to my voice. He asked for my name, so I gave him a fake name and a fake backstory since he was asking so many personal questions. Then he said I should run away with him. I told him I had a girlfriend and that seemed to anger him. That night he stayed until we closed, and eventually the other employees told him he had to leave. He paid in cash and then left and waved goodbye to me through the window. The next night I worked, he came back. Luckily, I was able to avoid him and my coworkers had my back, so I didn't have to interact with him much. The things that he said to me were minimal. He would always repeat, "You're doing a great job, Caroline," which was my fake name. That night, he stayed again until we kicked him out. Now, this most recent interaction has me freaked out, and it's the reason why I now fear for my safety. He came in to sit at the bar again, and luckily my male coworker was able to deal with him. However, my coworker had to leave, so by closing hours, it was just me and David. He started talking to me, saying the same kinds of weird things he said before. I remind him again about my girlfriend and say that one day I want to have a family with her. He then starts ranting that he's related to Napoleon Bonaparte and that he's Napoleon Bonaparte IX, which makes no sense to me. He then says that if me and him have kids, they would be royalty. I was so stunned. All I could do was muster an uncomfortable laugh and say I'd never have kids with him. Then he replies, "Well, this isn't something we would discuss right now, but maybe in the future." After that, I told him he needed to leave, and he heeded my instructions. As he headed out the door, though, I could have sworn he said my real name as he was walking out. I told my boss, who was very protective of me, what happened. She freaked out and said the next time he comes in, I have to call her. She said that the reason he could be staying so long is to watch where I go when I leave. I debated contacting the police, but I decided against it because my boss said she could schedule me to work at the restaurant's other location for the week. That way, we could see if David stops coming in. From what we could tell, he doesn't have a car and seems to travel on foot, so we thought he wouldn't be able to show up at the other location. I remembered him saying he lives close to the first location, which is why it was so convenient for him to go there every day. I started working at the new location, and for a week I had no issues, but I couldn't stop thinking about the danger I could be in. Then, as I was driving to work one day, I headed through an alleyway next to a bookstore. In the distance, I spotted someone standing in the rain, staring in my car. In my head, I thought, no way. But lo and behold, it was David. He even made eye contact with me as I drove past. I knew it was him because he wears the same thing too, a baseball cap and a blue shirt. It was almost like he anticipated that I would drive down that street. I had never seen him in that town before, and it's even scarier because that's where I live. It's a 15-minute drive away from the other restaurant, so walking on foot would take forever. I asked my manager to schedule me at the new location for the rest of the summer, and she said okay. But she also mentioned that since I stopped working at the other restaurant, he stopped showing up. I'm terrified, but thankfully, I'll be moving in about 8 days to a town an hour away. Hopefully, I'll never see David again.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Noah Fouts. Our audio engineers are Nathan Corson and Will Pritz. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.